Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Hot Girls and Hockey Podcast. My name is Sarah. If you're new here, this is the show where we talk about all things hockey, the what to knows, the who knows, and everything in between. And today's episode is going to be another team deep dive. This time on the Florida Panthers, which is super cool because, in case you've been living under a rock, they are the current, as well as last year's Stanley Cup champions. Feel however you want to feel about that. I personally am a big fan of the Panthers. Not my favorite team, obviously. My favorite team is the Sharks, which, just for all my new people watching or anyone new that just happens to stumble upon this for some reason, my team is the Sharks, but I do love the Panthers, mostly just because I love Matthew Tkachuk, and he is obviously on the Panthers. He's one of the alternate captains. So today's episode is going to be a deep dive on them as voted on by you guys. It's actually the one that got the third most amount of votes from the poll that I put up. Obviously the episode that got the most amount was the rating or ranking whatever hockey fights, which if you haven't watched it already, you can watch it on YouTube or listen to it on Spotify. That is already up. And then this one that got the next amount was the blind building my own hockey team, which is the last episode that I put up. You can watch that on YouTube as well, listen to it on Spotify. But today's is the team deep dive. Sidney Crosby player profile was the fourth pick on that, and nobody voted for him. Sid, I'm so sorry, my guy. You will get your roses, I promise. He'll probably, if not the next episode, then the one after that, just because I already did my Gretzky episode. I already did my Ovechkin. I did my one on the Tkachuks. I just feel like Sidney Crosby just needs his roses, man. He's a good guy, and I'm very excited because I really don't know a ton about him, so I'm excited to do more research and just get to know who this man, the myth, the legend is. Not a myth; he actually does exist, but you know what I mean. But yeah, that is what today's episode is about. Just catching up on all things hockey right now. I mentioned in the last episode how they did the draft, and afterwards all of the new fresh meats on the teams, the little youngins, they went to their respective teams that they were drafted to and did their development camps. And that, oh my god, every team in the NHL, their social media managers were on top of it. I don't know if they're just hiring Gen Zs to do all their social media stuff, but it was just so fun. Minnesota Wild, I think they went and did an escape room, and so did the Sharks, and they also learned how to cook. I think the Nashville Predators taught their kids how to do their kids. Taught their kids. I'm gonna keep that in. Taught them how to curl, which if you don't know, that's just it's like a winter sport game. I don't know, it looks like they're just pushing rocks on ice. I'm not too sure, but yeah, there were just so many cute and fun things that these guys were doing. And then obviously they're having scrimmages and stuff. I was really tempted to go to the prospect scrimmage for the Sharks, which was, I'm filming this on July 4th, which for my Americans, happy Independence Day. And so yesterday was July 3rd, which was the prospect scrimmage, and I really, really wanted to go, but I had work, and then afterwards I was so exhausted. So I was like, I do not want to drive all the way to San Jose for this. So I didn't go, but I saw so many TikToks from other Sharks fans on my For You page who did go to both the development camp, what's it called, little kind of trainings and stuff, because they are free to the public if you didn't know, at least for the Sharks. I'm not too sure about other teams, but the Sharks ones were free. It was at the Tech CU or Tech TU Arena in San Jose, and so I saw a couple of girlies go to that and just look at Simon Wang and Michael Misa, and I forgot our goalie's name. It's starts with an R, the last name, but just looking at all the new guys, and I gotta say, I really liked what I saw. I still am holding on to my stance that it will take definitely more than 3 years to rebuild the Sharks. Will probably take more to like 5 or 6. Like I will probably be married with kids by the time we make it to like maybe second round of playoffs, if we make it to the playoffs at all. But what I have seen, I really like. So I think we're heading to a really positive direction. Another huge thing that happened in hockey, which has nothing to do with the draft at all, was we saw it coming. We knew that it was coming, but it doesn't make it any less sad. But the sad news of Mitch Marner leaving the Maple Leafs to go to Vegas. Now, I'm a new hockey fan, as a lot of you guys may know, so I really haven't followed his career up until this point, like, religiously, but learning his lore, seeing that video of him when he was, 3-4 years old on the ice, like, who's your favorite hockey team? He said Toronto Maple Leafs. And then he gets drafted by them, and I don't even know, how long was he on the team? Like 10 years maybe? I'm not too sure. Don't quote me on that. But, and the letter he wrote, it like breaks my heart knowing that he thinks that it all came back on him. The fact that the Leafs just couldn't secure a cup while he was on the team. Oh my God. I like genuinely started tearing up. I felt so much for the man. But you know what? That's hockey for you. That's sports for you. I saw the video of him being welcomed by the Golden Knights staff and coaching staff, whatever, with him and his wife and his little baby. And he looks happy, or at least as happy as he can be, after spending a big chunk of his life living in Canada and now moving to Vegas. So, we'll see what happens with this next season. Maybe it'll all turn around. Who knows? God, man, I'm so excited for this upcoming season. It's going to be a real ride, just to say the least. But yeah, I'm trying to think if there's anything else that had happened. Prospect camps, prospect scrimmage, development camps, Mitch Marner. It's free agency season right now, so Sharks have been letting go of a couple of their guys. I don't know if I mentioned it in this last episode or whatever. We lost Pickles. That sounds really weird. The Sharks lost Vlasic. He had been on the team for, I want to say, maybe like 12 or 13 years, and they decided not to. It was either like they came to an agreement, they decided not to renew his contract, something like that, so he's a free agent. But we lost Pickles. I was very, very fortunate to be able to see him play, and also be there for his 1300th game. It was a very cool moment. I was sitting actually right behind him because I was sitting. It was his 1300th game was the January 25th game this past season, against Florida, and I was sitting right behind the bench, closer to, like, if you're looking at the ice, I was on the far right, like right at the corner, and he was just sitting there on a little stool, and then they made the announcement like, the San Jose Sharks are also happy to congratulate Vlasic on his 1300th NHL game, and they had like a big graphic, and I was like right behind him, and I was just like, congrats, and he was just like nodding and tipping his hat. He wasn't wearing a hat, but you know what I mean. He was like, he was like, guys, stop it. Stop. But yeah, so that was really cute. Okay. Enough rambling about fucking hockey. This is already going to be a little bit of a longer episode as it is. Even though they really haven't been a team for that long. There's a lot of lore with the Panthers. So let's just get into it. I do have my non-branded black cherry seltzer in my Sharks cup. It's 4th of July after all. Gotta, I don't know, do my partying somewhere. I'm too pooped to party this year. Was too pooped to party last year as well, now that I think about it. But I'm celebrating with you guys, so Cheers. Okay, so some things to know about the Florida Panthers right off the bat. They are a team in the Eastern Conference, more specifically the Atlantic Division. They currently play in Sunrise, Florida, and they were a team founded in 1993. What was so extremely, just coming out of left field for me researching this was figuring out who the founder of the team was. It's this guy named Wayne, and I am going to butcher this last name. Huizenga? It's Huizenga. I'm just going to call him Wayne out of respect because I really don't want to have to struggle on his last name every time I say it. But he was the founder of the team, and he was also the founder of Waste Management, which if you live in the US, you know what Waste Management is. I don't know if it's an international thing, but it's basically like the biggest trash company ever, like dumpsters, home trash cans, whatever. They're a big waste management company. Duh. And he was also a Blockbuster video magnate, which basically means that he opened and owned like a ton of stores. Blockbuster became a thing, I believe, in 1985 from what I read. And then in 1987 was when Wayne bought a bunch of the locations and the stores and stuff, and also like opened more. And a lot of people say that he was like a co-owner. I don't know about that. I really didn't do too much research on that aspect of him. But all this to say, the man knew potential. He saw potential. And what he saw also was potential in sports in Florida, because he also at this time was the owner of the Florida Marlins, which is an MLB team now known as the Miami Marlins. And he was also a co-owner or a part owner of the Miami Dolphins, which, as you guys know, is an NFL team. So the man saw potential in sports in Florida, and he really did want to expand and make a hockey team in Florida and bring one there. So a fun fact about this was the day that he was awarded an NHL team was December 10th, 1992. This day was very important because of that, but also because there was another entity that was awarded an NHL team as well for their own creation. And this was the Walt Disney Company, which, as I've mentioned, I don't know, maybe in a couple of episodes already, they created the Mighty Ducks of Anaheim, obviously based off of their movie, The Mighty Ducks, which was very popular hockey movie. If you've never seen it, it's a really cute movie. But they did the Disney Company, and Wayne were given their teams on the same day, and they obviously would go on to be the Ducks and the Panthers. I just thought that was really, really funny that these two teams were pretty much given the go on the same day, even though obviously they didn't know what they wanted at that time. Well, maybe Disney did, but you know what I mean. And at first, Wayne, he wanted the team to be called the Blockbusters, obviously because he owned a ton of them. And he wanted their team colors to be the iconic blue and, I say blue and yellow, I guess it's technically blue and gold. And NHL was like, no dude, try again. And so then on April 20th, 1993, the team name was announced to be the Florida Panthers. And then also the team's president and GM were also announced. So the president at this time was the former Islanders GM, Bill Torrey. And their GM was Bobby Clark, who was a former Philadelphia Flyers player. Their first official NHL season was the 1993 to 1994 season, and their roster was pretty much created from players that they acquired through that year's expansion draft, which, if you don't know what that is pretty much when a NHL decides to create a new team or give a go for a new team. Other current NHL teams that are already, in the league, they will either like offer up, or they'll, say like, hey, we have a couple of players that you guys can have, and then they kind of build their team from that. So the Panthers and the Ducks at this time, because they were the two new teams, they were doing this. So this is how they were building their rosters. They're doing it from that, as well as the NHL entry draft for 1993. So this is how they were building up their team and everything for this very first season of theirs. And then on October 6th of 1993 was when they played their very first ever game against Chicago. And they did very good for an expansion team in their very first season, even almost making it to the 1994 Eastern Conference playoffs. Also at this time, it's nice to mention that their first coach was this guy named Roger Nielsen. In August 1994, our GM, Bobby Clark, he decided to go back to Philadelphia. So now we have a new GM, and his name is Brian Murray, and he was a former Detroit's Red Wings player. We almost made it to the playoffs in the 1994 to 1995 season, but due to that lockout that happened that season, which if you don't know what a lockout is, go watch my Alex Ovechkin episode, because I do a really good explanation on pretty much what a lockout is. But that made their season short, or cut it short, and so they didn't make the cut. It was also around this time that Roger Nielsen, remember our coach, he got into an argument with our new GM, Brian Murray, because Nielsen did not like who the team chose as their first overall pick for the 94 draft. So then he got fired. So now we have a new coach, and his name is Doug MacLean. Okay, this feels like a very good time to talk about the I'm gonna call it lore around why Florida fans throw rubber rats onto the ice, which is a very interesting sentence to say. But if you were ever curious about why the fans do that, if there's a story behind it, which there is, here it is for you, for the people. I am for you. Okay, so the scene. The scene is the home opening game for the 1995 to 1996 season. The men in question, a guy named Scott Mellenby, who was a forward for the team. Again, horrible at last names, so I'm just going with that's how you say his last name. As well as the goalie for the team at the time, or like the main goalie for the team at that time, a guy named John Van Beesbrook. I'll call you John. So what happened exactly? Okay, so the scene is it's before the game, and all the boys are in the locker room, and while Scott Mellenby was getting ready and suiting up and everything, he sees a little rat, like an actual rat, scurrying across the locker room, and so he freaks out and he grabs his hockey stick and does what's called a one-time shot, which is pretty much it's a shot where you're meeting a teammate's pass, and you meet it with a slap shot that really doesn't have a total direction, like you're not really having control in the puck. It's kind of like a knee-jerk reaction kind of thing. I don't know if I'm explaining it right. You can always look it up or look up a video example of it. But he then executes a one-time shot on this rat, whacks it against the wall, kills the rat. So it's really setting the tone for this home opening game, this home season opening. So then later on that night, as they're playing the game, Mellenby then scored 2 goals in that game, to which John, the aforementioned goalie, called this a rat trick, which if you don't know, I don't know if I've mentioned this, a hat trick. Actually, I know I did mention this because I mentioned it in my book talk episode, but a hat trick, just for your refresher, is basically the term for when one player scores 3 goals in a game. More specifically, I think it's more cool if you score 3 goals in a period, but either way, it's a hat trick if you score 3 goals in the game. And so John was referring to this as a rat trick because obviously, like I said, Mellenby made 2 goals that game, but he's saying the third one was when he fucking just railed that rat against the wall and killed it. And so this is just a fun little cute story, one just to like tell the kids and the wife when they get home from work later that night. But then it got out and around to the public, and more people started finding out about this story, leading to now a tradition where fans will throw rubber rats onto the ice to celebrate a goal. And that, my friends, is the lore behind that, and the reason why they do that. Because I don't know about you, I did not know the reason why they did it. I knew they did it. I thought it was just because, I don't know, Panthers were like embracing the fact that they're called like a rat team or whatever. I didn't know that there was actual rat involved in the lore of it, so that was very fun to learn about. All right, so now that's all over. I just needed to do this and insert this because it happens in this timeline. But now let's get back to the history of the team. So the 1996 playoffs, we make the cut for them. We beat Boston in the first round, and then we beat the Flyers in the second round, and then we beat the Penguins in the third, which means that we made it to the finals. We made it to the 1996 finals, but we then lost to the Colorado Avalanche, which ironically enough, this was their first time making it to the finals as well. So, we made it to the finals, did not win, but you know what? For a team that's only 3 years old, good job, guys. And then the 1996 to 97 season, they did start off really promising with a 12-game winning streak, but then things just kind of lost the plot towards the end of the season. And in the 1997 playoffs, we did lose in the first round against the New York Rangers. And then things just kind of didn't get better in the following season, the 97 to the 98 season. First of all, we got off to a 7-12-4 start, which, if you don't know what that means, it means we won 7 games. We lost 12, and we had 4 overtime losses. This led to the team firing McLean, who did not remember that's our coach, or I guess was our coach. So now we have a new coach, which is the team's GM, Brian Murray. And then we ended the season with a 24-43-15 record. It was at this time that we got rid of the aforementioned goalie that I mentioned in the rat story, John Van Beesbroek. Oh, I'm so sorry, my guy. I don't know how to say her last name. And this season was also one that included a very cute, fun, and fresh 15-game losing streak. You know what? I know exactly what that feels like because the Sharks had like a 12-game losing streak. So it's rough. It was rough to be a Florida fan, I guess, at this point in time. And with all this happening, for the 98 to 99 season, the Panthers moved into their now current arena. Before this, they were playing in the Miami arena, which was shared with the Heat. And I guess they would just fill it up with fucking ice. I don't know. But they were playing there up until this season, which is when they moved to their new arena, which at the time was called the National Car Rental Center. Now it's just known as the Amerant Bank Arena, which is where they currently play. And there's nothing really of note for this first season in the arena, but the next season, so the 99 to the 2000 season, they would make it to the playoffs again, but they would lose in the first round to the New Jersey Devils. Man, and then things really just weren't getting substantially better with the next season, the 2000 to the 01 season, because it was another what I coined as another L season. And it was because of all this that our buddy Wayne, Blockbuster guy, he decided to sell the team to an ownership group that was led by a man named Alan Cohen. And if you think things just couldn't get worse, they did. In the 2001 to the 2002 season, where they would see their worst record ever, 22-44-6. I'm just going to leave it at that. And honestly, one of just like the highlights of these years is just the fact that in the 02 to 03 season, they ended up being the ones to host the NHL All-Star Weekend, which was cool. I'm sure a cup would have felt a lot better, but hey, fuck, a win is a win, I guess. And so now we're going to fast forward until the year 2006. So that's the year 2006. What happened in 2006? High School Musical came out. Taylor Swift's debut album came out. I was surfing Yahoo videos, looking at music videos for my favorite group at the time, NSYNC, even though they had not been a band for a really long time at that point. But this was also the year where they made some trades, which are to some considered some of the worst trades in NHL history. And also one could say that they were some of the worst trades in sports history. But that is up to you and how you feel. Let me just tell you what happened. Okay, so they have these two guys that are on their team, Robert Luongo and Lucas Krajcik. I hope I'm saying your last name right. And they traded them as well as a 6th round draft pick to the Vancouver Canucks. And in return, Panthers would receive a man named Todd Bertuzzi, Alex Old, and Brian Allen. And a lot of people really, really questioned why they traded Robert Luongo, because he was at the peak of his career and he was one of the league's top goaltenders. So it didn't really make a lot of sense why they would let go one of their best players, especially a goalie, because in my opinion, goalie is the most important player on the ice, and that's just my opinion. I think that they have a really, really hard job, but I digress a lot. So that was already a risky decision in of itself. His replacement was the Alex Old guy that I mentioned before. And he was just a shit replacement, honestly. And he only lasted one season with them. And then that Bertuzzi guy that they received, he only lasted a few games before he got injured and couldn't play anymore. What? So just poor picks all around. Like I mentioned, a lot of people were like, these are probably the worst trades in NHL history, if not sports history. But that's how 2006 went for them. And then also during this time, they were just consistently not making playoffs. So from the years 2006 to 2009, they really were just not doing the best as a team. And it was in November of 2009 when we got new owners, Cliff Vanier and Stu Siegel. They became majority owners of the team. And then now we enter what is called the Dale Talon era. So the Dale Talon era lasted from 2010 to 2020, and it all starts with the man himself, Dale Talon. He became our new team GM. He was a former Vancouver Canucks, Chicago Blackhawks, and Pittsburgh Penguins player. So he had been in the league, he knew the shtick, he knew the game, and he pretty much rebuilt the team as soon as he got in there in 2010. And also got them a new coach named Kevin Dineen, who was an AHL coach prior to coaching in the NHL. And so with all this, new rebuilding, rebranding, whatever, we did finally make playoffs in 2012, but we lost in the first round, again, to the New Jersey Devils. But you know what? It was just nice probably making playoffs anyway after a long drought. The next season, the 2012 to 2013, really wasn't much to talk about. It was another lockout season, so it was shortened. There were tons of injuries on the team. They had the worst record in the league, so we're just not going to talk about that season, okay? Let's just move on. Now we have a new coach. His name is Peter Horachek. He played in the IHL and the AHL. If you don't know what the IHL is, just the International Hockey League, and then AHL, I think I mentioned before, is the American Hockey League. But he did not last long with the team because then he was almost immediately replaced with Gerard Gallant, who was a former Blue Jackets coach. And then some notable things that happened during these years, so I'm talking 2013, 2014, is that in 2013, we got Alexander Barkov drafted to our team. And then 2014, we got Aaron Ekblad to our team. Those guys are still on the team, and they are incredible players. If I do say so myself, I loved watching them during the playoffs. And this all led to a better season for the 15 and 16 season. We did make playoffs, but, again, we were eliminated in the first round by the New York Islanders. And then it's weird because this is considered the Dale Talon era, but for a brief period, Dale Talon was not the team's GM. In the 2016-2017 season, we actually got a new GM named Tom Rowe. He was a former Red Wings, Capitals, and Whalers player because Dale Talon got a promotion. So he was still working for the team. He just has a different position in the team. He was more like one of the higher ups pretty much. And then what was weird was that this Tom Rowe guy was then made the interim head coach for the team before being switched over to be the special advisor to Dale Talon for whatever position that he had at this time. And then Dale Talon eventually did return to being the team's GM as well as the team's president. Which all leads us to our new coach, a familiar face because he also coached for the San Jose Sharks. Bob. Oh, I can't. I'm a child. I laugh and giggle when I say his last name, Bob Boner. Or I wonder if it's Bogner. It might be Bogner. I don't know. I'm so sorry, my guy. But he is now the coach. 2017 also saw the next expansion draft start with the Vegas Golden Knights, where the trades that the Panthers would make to Vegas would come back to really bite them in the ass. Hindsight's 2020 in this situation. But they had left a forward on their team. I'm talking about like Florida. This is what they're doing. They had left a forward on their team named Jonathan. Oh God, these last names. Marshalt. Yeah. Unprotected in this expansion draft. So then he went to Vegas. Where then in 2023, when it's the Stanley Cup Finals against Panthers and Vegas, which, spoiler alert, Vegas won that year. Not only did Jonathan win the Conn Smythe trophy, but he also would score the series clinching goal. And so then around this time, we had made playoffs for like 3 seasons. So then that Boner guy was fired in 2019. So now I have a new coach named Joe Carnevy. But it was also this year that we got our Lord and Savior, Bobrovsky, as our new goalie. Love that man. And you know what is crazy is that at this time, acquiring him was considered a gamble to people because of his age, as well as he had some inconsistent play at this time. But you know what? I bet they're fucking licking their wounds right now, okay? So this leads us to 2020, and it's the end of the Dale Talon era as he then left the team. And now we have a new GM named Bill Zito. He is an attorney and a sports agent, or I guess now former attorney and former sports agent, because we were continuing to not make playoffs, as I mentioned before. But then in 2021, we did make the playoffs that year, but we did lose in the first round to Tampa, which then led to our boy Joel getting fired as coach. And now we have a guy named Andrew Brunette, who was a former NHL player. He played for the Predators, the Capitals, the Wild, Avalanche, and a bunch of other teams that I just didn't feel like naming off. In 2022 was nice. We won the President's Trophy for that year, and we also made it to the second round of playoffs, but we did lose to Tampa again. But then finally, as if falling out of the sky and landing in our laps, we got who is our current coach, Paul Maurice, who played in the OHL, and also he played for the Philadelphia Flyers in the NHL. He coached for the Carolina Hurricanes, Hartford Whalers, the Winnipeg Jets, and the Toronto Maple Leafs. And this man is a character. If you've ever watched the Face Off documentary series on Amazon, he is a hoot and holler, I'll say that. And also in 2022. Sorry, I'm getting emotional. But this is when my Pookie Matthew Tkachuk, get traded to the team, which I mentioned in my video on the Tkachuks. But yeah, this is the year when he went from the Calgary Flames over to the Florida Panthers. So now with our new coach and with Tkachuk entering the villa, we were set. I think these were some of the best decisions that we could have made for the Panthers. Argue with the proverbial wall. I don't give a fuck what you think. This is my opinion. And even though, okay, the season, the 2022, the 2023 season did have a rocky start, mostly because Barkov got injured. They bounced back after he came back, and that later half of the season, they cinched a spot in the playoffs. And they ended up making it to the finals, as I mentioned before, against Vegas of the 2023 Stanley Cup finals. And, they did lose. But then they bounced back next season for the 2023 to 2024, where they made it again to the Stanley Cup finals. And this time it was against the Edmonton Oilers. And they won their very first Stanley Cup that year. They were the 2024 Stanley Cup champions, and then fucking said, let's just do this again. And then they won again next year. It's the same shit, just different season, which again, they were matched up against the Oilers for the 2025 playoffs and the finals, and they won again. So 2 for 2, let's go. And you know what, that is where we're at right now. They are arguably probably just one of the, if not the most hated teams in the league. But I love them. I guess also of note was how Brad Marchand, who was the captain of the Bruins, got traded mid-season to the Panthers, and now looks like he's gonna be a Floridian. And a Floridian, I don't know, but he's looking to stay. Being on a winning team is probably a very delicious feeling. I wouldn't know. But yeah, so that is the team history of the Florida Panthers. Try to do the best that I could in researching, kind of just getting all the important, I guess, facts and stuff into there. So if there's anything that I missed, please make sure to put it down in the comments below if you're watching this on YouTube, or just let me know if I missed anything. If you're watching this on YouTube, please make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. It does help a lot. If you're listening to this on Spotify, please make sure to give the show a good rating. Also, if you'd like, you can follow me on Instagram. It's at SarahXCrake, or on TikTok, it's at HGLHpod. And yeah, I love you guys so much, and I will see you guys in the next one. Bye!